downstairs. We present shows on this stage. Some of the finest songwriters touring our land play this stage. And I hope that right now, all of you that raise your hand and tell me you've never been here before, if you've never been here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Now keep up for a second. I have a question. We've just started our 6th year, and I want to know, where in the hell have you been? Come on now. This is an important part of our community, and you need to support us here. So, yes. Also, I want to let you know a couple of things before we get started. The lay of the land out in the lobby. Each candidate has a little table, a small table, because it's not a big lobby, but I would encourage you to see their volunteers and to talk to them if you get the chance, and just make sure you get all the information that you possibly can and want before you leave. In the lobby, there's also 2 restrooms. They're unisex. They're unisex because there's 1 potty per room. I am neither being political, religious, or social in any way. In fact, if all of you want to go in one of those rooms together, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, but I promise you, there's 1 potty per room. So, there are some more restrooms downstairs. There's a men's room and a ladies' room down there. You're welcome if you don't want to queue up to go there. Also in the lobby, there is a small refreshment stand. And at the refreshment stand, there's beer and wine and sodas and very healthy snacks like potato chips and Snickers bars and things like that. So I would encourage you to imbibe. As you know, if you live in beautiful downtown Duluth, Uber and Lyft will pick you up right at our front door. And so just plan on having a good evening. Stay with us. Hear everything you possibly can from these very smart people. And we'll see what happens in a few months. I would like to introduce you now to a young lady. Her name is Mary Campbell. She is one of the leaders of Find Your Voice Duluth, who are the sponsors of this great event with someone else, and I can't remember who's the other one. Indivisible, Georgia. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry? Georgia 7th. So Mary's going to give you the lay of the land of what's going to happen up here, but thank you again for attending. I hope you'll come back to the show sometime and have a good time. Mary?
Wow. Hi. Can everybody hear me? Hi. All right, so I'm just here tonight to give you a little bit of a rundown of why we did this, what our expectations are for tonight. Georgia 7, we're not just voters, we're neighbors, and we educate your kids, we pray together, we eat together, we have fun together, and in that spirit, please keep that in mind while we're listening to the candidates, that everybody is here to be able to make decisions about who they want to vote for. So we would ask that you withhold any applause till the end, and that you refrain from any, remarks during the event. If that makes sense. Keep in mind that they gave up their holiday in order to be here tonight. We want these candidates to safely express themselves without worry of anything being taken out of context or having their words manipulated. So we're asking that you turn off your phones, that there be no recording. We have a professional videographer who is recording the event tonight, and this event will be posted in full on YouTube for anybody who's not able to be here tonight. Okay? The last thing that I wanted to mention was that Find Your Voice Duluth and Indivisible Georgia 7 both have meetings coming up. Indivisible Georgia 7 has a meeting on March 10th with a very long roster of candidates that are coming to speak from different areas. And Find Your Voice Duluth, we are starting a series of listening sessions that are designed to bring together independents and Republicans and Democrats together to exchange views on current politically charged issues. Our first one is just around the corner on Tuesday, March 2nd, and it's going to be at the Main Street Sandwich Shop. It says, it's March 12th. It says the 2nd, I'm sorry. Sorry, on March 12th at 6:30. So I hope we see you there. Y'all enjoy tonight. I forgot. I have a couple of more announcements, and I completely forgot. I'm not done. I'm just exceedingly nervous. So excuse me. No, one thing that we need to do, we need to make everybody make note of in the program. We have a typo. We misspelled Kathleen's name. It is Kathleen Allen We are so very, 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 very sorry for this. It was not our intention. It was mostly just crunch time, and we did not get our editing, our copy, our proofing done. I'd like to introduce the moderator for tonight. It's Linda Mancias. She is the Assistant Professor of Political Science in the School of Liberal Arts at Georgia Gwinnett College. She teaches Introduction to American Government, Honors American Government, American Judicial Process, and Women in Politics courses. In 2015, Mancias was appointed chair of the American Political Science Association Committee on the status of Latinos and Latinas in the profession. Mancias is a member of the GGC Faculty Senate and the GGC Honors Council. She served as faculty advisor to the GGC Democrats and to the Grizzly News Network. Please give everybody a round of applause and thank her for being here.
Here at this town hall meeting, which seems we don't have as many in our district anymore. So this goes to show how we need town hall meetings. And my students get extra points, so they're real upset that they don't have a town hall meeting to go to. So this is, this is just wonderful, and some of my students are actually here. I hope y'all know where Georgia Gwinnett College is, and I hope you've been over there. It is a beautiful campus, and it really needs to be connected to the community more. So please take time to go to Georgia Gwinnett, look at the campus, and get involved with that community over there, because we are waiting for y'all just as well as y'all are waiting for us to do something. Okay? All right. So our candidates now, will you please come out? Announcement that 8 candidates were invited and these 7 accepted. I'm going to draw the names, and the person that I draw, this is the order they're going to be speaking in, okay? All right. So our first candidate will be Melissa Davis.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And thank you to Indivisible Georgia 7 and Find Your Voice Duluth for hosting this evening. And thank you to Dr. Mancia for moderating for us. And thank you for all of you for coming out here this evening. I am Melissa Davis. I live in Cumming with my husband, Lawrence, an Army veteran, and our 10-year-old daughter, Zora. I have been a public servant for over 20 years. Working in local government, both city and county. I learned what it means to be a public servant from my mother, who was a single parent and a waitress, earning less than minimum wage to provide for our family. But she had hopes and dreams for herself and for her 4 children. She continued to work as a waitress until she met the requirements to become a teacher, and she taught for over 20 years. Watching my mother, my brothers and I learned the value of hard work and determination. And as a young girl living in Dillon, South Carolina, which was ranked last in the country for education, I too had hopes and dreams. And today I stand before you and I am running for Congress. I am running for Congress because I believe that every American should have the opportunity to achieve their American dream. And as your representative, I will fight. I will fight so that you can continue to hope and so that you can continue to dream and that maybe those dreams will be turned into a reality. So I'm Melissa Davis, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Our next candidate is Shane.
Good evening. My name is Shane Hazel. I grew up here in Lawrenceville, Georgia. I went to Brookwood High School. I have been here for 40 years. Hey, Brooke was in the house. Yeah. After leaving for college, I joined the Marine Corps right after 9/11, where I did 2 deployments to Iraq, served this country through the battles of Najaf, Fallujah, and the initial invasion. I came back here and started a family. It has been laid upon me by my faith to stand before you, the Almighty. I have been called to stand, and it's not partisan. See, the oath that I took to defend this country and the Constitution of the United States is still relevant, because the career politicians in DC have usurped our rights, our liberties. They have grown government outside of the Constitution of the United States at our expense, and that is bipartisan. My goal in this is to go to DC to fight like mad to restore the state's reserve powers and your individual and inalienable rights. My name is Shane Hazel, and even if my opponent was here from the Republican side tonight, I would still be the only conservative on this bench. I think I'm well below my time, so in order to be expeditious and get this show on the road, we'll let the next person go.
Okay, thank you very much, Jen. Next person is Kathleen.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Allen, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. We are a representative democracy, and it means the world to me that you came out and participated in this event. My husband Eric and I moved to Norcross 12 years ago. We chose to make it our children's hometown. When my son was just a toddler and my daughter 5 months old. And I am very happy that we did so. I love the diversity of our community, and I love the small town feel of it. I am running because I listened to a telephone town hall of Rob Woodall's last spring when he was talking about repealing and replacing the ACA, and he had the gall to say, "I don't have a dog in the fight for every line in every bill." And my reaction was, well, of course you don't. But you likely have a constituent who does when it comes to healthcare reform. I have worked in managed healthcare for 23 years for for-profits and not-for-profits. I know the ACA. I helped to implement it for my insurer in this state. I want to go to DC and work on healthcare reform, among other issues. But when you look at the ballot, I'll be at the top of the list, and I should be your first choice for healthcare and other issues. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? My name is Pham. I'm running for Congress because this country has given my family and me so many opportunities to make a better life for ourselves. Opportunities that were not available or conceivable in the country where I was born. I want to make sure that those opportunities remain available for all Americans, regardless of who they are. I was born in South Vietnam. My dad and granddad fought for the South Vietnamese military during the Vietnam War alongside the U.S. Armed Forces. They fought for freedom and democracy. But unfortunately, after the war, the communists took over and threw all those who were involved with the military in the so-called re-education camps, which were actually torture/labor camps. After my dad got out, he started doing the paperwork to get us to America. So we came here in 1994 with nothing but the clothes on our backs. My parents had to work 2 jobs each, washing dishes to support the family. I was 11, my brother was 4, my sister was a newborn baby. We landed in Minnesota first and then made our way down to Rome, Georgia. You know, life was tough in the beginning, but we had some help. My siblings and I, we got to eat because of food stamps. We got our shots because of Medicaid. Now, 25 years later, we're a middle-class working family. My sister is a registered nurse. My brother is a captain in the U.S. Air Force. My wife and I, we're employers here in the community. We're in our 3rd year of residency here in Gwinnett County, and we're very, very active in the community. I was recently appointed to the Gwinnett County Transit Advisory Board. I serve on the Gwinnett County Police Foundation, among other boards. So this country has given me and my family so many opportunities. And so I want to go to DC to fight and to foster the spirit of unity in our country, because right now there's just way too much
Okay,
division.
sir, I'm a teacher, and I can cut you off real quick. Sit down, sir. Okay. All right. Carolyn.
Good evening. My name is Carolyn Bourdeaux. I came to Georgia in 2003 to serve as faculty at Georgia State University at the Andrew Young School of Policy Studies. My students are throughout the metro area and serve in a number of important roles and do great things for their community here. I have not just, though, been a teacher and a researcher. I have actively worked in a whole series of different roles. I've served as a legislative aide to several representatives and a senator. I was director of the Georgia Senate Budget and Evaluation Office during the Great Recession. I founded the Center for State and Local Finance. I am also a mother of a wonderful 6-year-old boy who is the light of my life and the apple of my eye. And my husband and I moved here last summer to Swanee because this is a wonderful place to raise a family. We have great schools and great parks and a great quality of life, and we need to keep building on that. I am also a daughter, and as some of you all know, my father passed away a few months ago, and he was an educator and person with a deep commitment to social justice and to this country. And when I graduated from college, he sat me down and he said, "Carolyn, this country has invested in you, and you need to give that back." And I think we're at a point in our history where all of us need to reflect that our country has invested in us, and we need to re-engage our democracy to give back. We have a president who is corrupt and incompetent. We have a Congress that is clearly broken and is no longer able to make the critical investments in our future that we need in healthcare, in education, in transit. So I would say, after we have fought this battle to renew our democracy and make those important investments, I think all of us want to sit down with our children someday and say this country has
Okay, Carolyn,
invested.
thank you very much. Next candidate is Mr. Steve Reilly.
Good evening. I'm Steve Reilly. I live in Peachtree Corners with my wife, Kathy. I'm going to pick up the mic, I suppose, here at this point and tell you that we've lived in Peachtree Corners since 1990. Kathy and I raised both of our children there. I actually grew up in Gwinnett County, having attended public schools myself over in Lawrenceville at a time long in the past and way before Shane was in high school. But let me tell you, folks, I'm an attorney. I practice law in a small firm in Lawrenceville. I'm the former chairman of the Gwinnett Democratic Party. I'm the former 7th District chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. And I'm a military veteran, having served 4 years of active duty as an officer in the United States Army. I'm running for Congress because I'm alarmed at the direction of our great country under the presidency of Donald Trump. Distraction, delusion, division, dishonesty, alternative facts, fake news, all of this, these are all features of the Trump administration. They're features that we just cannot permit to become the new normal. However, as Democrats, we've got to have a positive plan to bring to the voters as to the direction we want to take this country. I think that plan's got to start with renewing and revitalizing economic opportunity for the middle class. In recent years, too much of the wealth in this country has become concentrated in the top 1 to 5% of our population. We've got to reverse that trend. To do that, we've got to make major improvements in our public education system, and we've got to provide affordable and accessible health care for all Americans. On the environment, we've got to get back to the simple notion that we're going to work to preserve and protect the environment here in our country. And we're going to reclaim our leadership as a nation on the world stage in combating climate change and global warming instead of pretending that it doesn't exist. Domestically, we need to look at a renewed effort at comprehensive campaign finance reform that rids our political system of the corrosion and corruption of big money. And finally, on the international stage, we need to take a look at some of these war
Okay,
zones.
Steve, I'm sorry, you're up.
my wife often forgets about me as well, too. My name is David Kim. I live right here in Duluth, Georgia. I first came here in 2003 looking for opportunities for my tutoring business, C2 Education. In 2004, I opened my first location here right off of Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. I fell in love with the area and decided to move my company's national headquarters here in 2005. My loving wife is here in the audience today. Also, I have two beautiful daughters, my angels, a 5-year-old and a 4-month-old. Try to tell her to yell whenever the other candidates are speaking and not me. I also have a son going through the terrible twos, and I have a 6-year-old Maltipoo named Yoshi who is insanely jealous of our 3 kids. I don't know why. But that's my family, and this here is my home. Like many of you, I am deeply bothered and concerned by the chaos and the partisanship I see coming from Washington, D.C. The one word that comes to my mind when I think of D.C. is dysfunction. Now, we all know that numbers don't lie. We have deficits as far as the eye can see, and yet our rights here at home are being challenged. Our government moves from crisis to crisis, while the American dream gets harder and harder for everyday, hardworking Americans to achieve. The system is broken. Now, my father, he's a grandmaster in Taekwondo. He didn't teach me wax on or wax off, but he taught me to always fight for what's right. And I promise, as your congressman, I will fight to bring common sense, integrity, and discipline back to a system that has failed us and make sure that our government works for us. Thank you.
The little thing that I missed. I'm really sorry. So, can we let you answer this question then? The very first question? Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, will that make up for my mistake? Okay, the first question. Democrats complain about the Koch brothers. Republicans complain about the Soros Foundation. Both sides seem to agree that billionaires buying politicians hurts working American families. As a representative of working families in Gwinnett and Forsyth counties, how would you work to ensure that your constituents are represented fairly and without influence of the donor class?
You know, I think that's a great point that you bring up, Linda, because when I think of Washington and I think about the special interest, you know, I wonder what sort of leadership that we have in our government, right? They are allowing a tax bill that is going to raise the national debt for each and every one of us by $10 trillion. We're going to have a $30 trillion debt in 7 years. That's before my oldest daughter will graduate middle school. It's unfathomable that we have a Congress that believed in balancing the budget, just abandoned a basic core principle that they purported to believe in. Now, we need to make sure that we have a Congress that fights for our people, that listens to our people, that has compassion, that has heart, and not a Congress that's willing to take away health insurance from 25 million Americans with no alternative in sight. We need to bring common sense back. We have 70% of the American people that believe that we should provide a pathway to citizenship for the dreamers. It makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. So as your congressman, I will bring common sense.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Reilly, since you were last, can you go now, please?
Sure, certainly. First and foremost, let me suggest that comprehensive campaign finance reform has already been started by some in the Congress who've introduced a bill that's been kicking around for years called the Fair Elections Now Act. Now, in various forms, that bill is one that would take us to a system of matching funds for congressional elections. It would be funded for Senate races by fees on large federal contractors, and in House races by broadcast spectrum being auctioned off and a portion of that being applied toward the funds utilized by House candidates. They would also have specific limits on expenditures. Second, we've got to do something about IRS 501c4 corporations. We hear about super PACs all the time, folks, but 501c4 corporations are these shadowy groups that raise huge money from folks like the Kochs and the Mercers and Sheldon Adelson and fund all these campaigns and drown out the voices of the voters at large.
Okay, Steve, your time's up. Okay, no applause, please. We're going to move right quickly on. Okay, let's go right on. Let's go right. Yeah, please. Y'all just go down the line now, okay? Please, 1 minute piece.
Yeah, so the super PACs that are distorting our electoral process, they are distorting what campaigns are meant to be. The elected in Congress are here to represent the people. They are here to find out what your needs are, what your concerns are, and that should be their only concern. We should not be running for office trying to figure out where we could get the most money from, which corporation, which super PAC. That is not why we are here. We are here because we want to represent you. We want to represent your needs. We want to make this country a better country for you, your children, and your grandchildren. Until things change, until we have a better campaign reform process in place, this democracy would not be what it needs to be. The focus would not be where it needs to be. And as your representative, I will work very hard.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay,
to ensure that.
go right on down.
So I also support a multi-pronged approach to dealing with the election policy issues that we have in this country. We need to deal with gerrymandering. We need to deal with voter integrity. We cannot have our voting system at the mercy of the Russians. I, however, want to talk briefly about the importance of public financing, because while we talk about the Koch brothers and George Soros giving so much money, the reality is, you know who can give an unlimited amount of money? The candidate. Everyone else, including the candidate's spouse, is limited to $2,700 per individual donor. It is increasingly difficult to get folks who are middle class to run for office when they do not have a personal wealth to contribute $250,000 to their own campaigns. We need public financing so that we can all get out here and talk to voters and not be trying to...
Hey, Shane, you're next.
Thank you very much. What we need to do is consider the Constitution. Per our oath, Article 6, Section 3 of the Constitution. In Federalist Paper 45, James Madison, father of the Constitution, told us that the few and defined powers delegated by the Constitution to the federal government are just that, few and defined, that all reserved powers belong to the states. We need to downsize our government back to constitutional means. We need to abolish the IRS and stop state-sponsored terrorism here in the United States, and we need to fix our money supply and end the Fed, because our money supply is a tax that goes unnoticed by most of America. Besides that, we need to lead by example, and that is term limits. I've self-inflicted 8 years upon myself, and after that I will be leaving, because we will be growing the next generation of constitutional candidates.
Very good. The candidates do see that there's a time limit here in the 15 minutes and the 30 minutes, right? 30 seconds, I mean. Y'all do see that, okay? Okay.
Trying to save everybody time and money here.
Thank you, Shane. Okay, so you just hold it a little bit higher so the candidates can see it. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, this is something I feel very keenly. As someone who's working hard on raising money so that we can fight a decent fight against the big money that will be rolling in on Rob Woodall's side. So yes, I support public financing of elections. In particular, there's legislation introduced by David Price that would privilege small donors by matching it. I think we do need to address the 501c3 and C4 issue, the dark money and the dark money, by making them declare themselves. And last, I also think we need to work towards nonpartisan redistricting to try to bring people together to solve problems. So pull the money out and try to push forward on policies that will cause folks to come together.
Thank you.
So this issue is personal to me. I told you earlier that my dad and granddad fought for democracy in South Vietnam. And I love living in our representative democracy here. But unfortunately, there's too much money involved in our politics, way too much money. I completely disagree with the decision that was handed down under Citizens United. As congressman, I will do everything I can to reverse the detrimental effects of Citizens United. And we need to make sure that our government, our system of our political system is for the people, of the people, and by the people, and not for and of by the corporations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so our next question is, Do you believe in the concept of public education? Right? If so, how do we ensure that all of the children in Georgia have the tools they need to stay competitive and make a livable wage in our increasingly tech-driven economy? Okay, Steve, I'm going to start off with you again.
Yes, of course. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, 1 minute? All of them? Yeah, 1 minute.
They're not all 1 minute, but that one is 1 minute.
Yes, it is. Okay.
Where
One
we starting?
minute.
With me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I am a proponent of public education. I'm a product of the system myself, as are our own children. It's the backbone upon which America was built. I'm troubled by the Republican drive to privatize so much of education now, whether it's shifting money into voucher plans or these tax credits that are used for private education. It's almost an attempt to resegregate America to some extent along racial and socioeconomic lines. It's troubling. It needs to be stopped. In terms of secondary education, I think that we can make college at public universities, or tuition at public universities and colleges, free to our citizenry, and that requires to fund it. Only some minor tweaks to the tax code. Bernie Sanders talked about this. A lot of people shot him down, but the reality is a minor adjustment to the highest income tax rate or on passive income on capital gains would be more than enough to fund free public college tuition for Americans.
Kathleen, can we have you next? Kathleen?
Yes, I support public education. When I moved to Norcross with my husband, we met 6 neighbors the first weekend. 5 of them told us not to send our kids to public schools because they spoke Spanish on the playground. We kept our children there. I often say, I don't just put my money where my mouth is, I put my children where my mouth is. They have gotten an excellent education in a Title I elementary and middle school, and I'm proud of that. We need to support the Title I program. I would disagree with Mr. Shane Hazel about federal involvement in our public schools. Title I helps my children's classmates eat 2 meals a day so that they can learn. If they are hungry, they cannot learn. We must support our public education system with investment. Thank you.
Carolyn, you're next.
Okay. Yes, I strongly support education. My son is enrolled in public school. I'm the product of public school. Both my parents taught in public schools, and my mother was a principal of one. I think what we see right now with the Trump administration is, efforts to cut public education, to redirect money towards private schools, and I just think that's undermining what we have. We have a wonderful world-class school system here, and we need to buoy that up. We need to invest in the early grades. I don't know if you know this, an interesting thing I stumbled on the other day, which was that of children entering first grade, only 40% in Gwinnett never had kindergarten. So we need to make sure that we have children who have kindergarten and who have pre-K, and that all children have access to pre-K, because that's important for learning down the end. And then we need to make sure that all children graduate with a clear pathway to a career. Okay, that's it.
Melissa, you're next.
As the daughter of a public school educator, I am a big proponent of public school education. I believe that every parent wants the best for their children. If they want to send their children to private school, then they should pay for it. We have very limited resources in the public education system, and those dollars need to go to stay in the public education arena. So yes, I support public education. We need to leave the dollars in where they are needed with the kids that are in the public school system. And I believe in expanding the pre-K program so that we can start with early education for these young people, and so that they could have the most potential to have a productive life. Thank you so much.
Shane, you're next.
Sure. Is this on? There we go. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives us no authority at the federal level whatsoever to run the Department of the Education, and I believe it should be abolished at the federal level. My wife is a teacher by trade. I understand the hours that go into it. I also understand, because she is a teacher, the hours she puts into our own kids at homeschool. Schools are not safe, as we've seen in Florida. We need to do something about that. We need to interject culture back into our schools, and we need to get the government out of it at the federal level. For me, this is, unfortunately, nothing's free, and somebody has to pay for it. And unfortunately, that rests on the taxpayers, especially when the federal government is wasting your money when it could be resourced here at a much better time and place by the teachers, by the community, and by the staff that actually
Thank you very much,
love it.
Shane. Next is David.
There is no one here that is stronger about public education than I am. I have devoted my entire life to helping kids get into the college of their dreams. I've helped tens of thousands of students here in the state of Georgia get into their dream college. Now, my company, C2 Education, we work, 80% of our students are public school educated kids. At the magazine that I work at now, Teen 90% of our students are public educated students. I've helped those kids find their passion in writing and in the arts. What we really need to do is we need to end the mediocrity of our students. We need to make sure that we have a world-class education system that prepares us for the 21st century, that prepares us for the economy that will be coming ahead. Now, every party, whether it's a Republican or Democrat, they claim to want to fix the education system, yet we still rank 38th in the world. So I say this, we need to end the mediocrity now, and we need to strive for excellence in our education system today.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next question. Did I get everybody? I want to make sure. Oh, a little bit. Sorry. Ethan, you're next.
So, when we first came to America, my siblings and I, we didn't speak a lick of English, and we are products of the American public school system. The public school system gave us the basic tools we needed to get ahead. So I am a firm believer of the American public school system. We need to invest in our future. We need to make sure there's sufficient funding for our public school system. And especially in this day and age, we live in a globalized economy. We need to have an educated workforce. In addition, in order to have a functioning democracy, we need to have an educated citizenry. So I am a firm believer in the public school system. Yeah.